Let's talk about the art of Zentangling. A Zentangle is an easy-to-learn, relaxing, and fun way to create beautiful art by drawing structured patterns. We know that patterns are shapes, lines, and designs that repeat. In a Zentangle, there is often a balance between high contrast patterns and low contrast patterns. Contrast in art is when colors that are placed next to each other are strikingly different in brightness and saturation. The most common contrasting colors in Zentangles are black and white, but complementary colors, colors opposite on the color wheel, are also contrasting colors. Now let's look at some examples of high contrast and low contrast patterns and compare the differences. So here's our high contrast patterns. We see a lot more of the darker color and less of the lighter color, or less empty space. By comparison, on the low contrast patterns, we see more of the lighter color or empty space and a lot less of the darker color. The key to creating a Zentangle is variety, meaning you have lots of different kinds of patterns, but also having balance, meaning you have equal amounts of high contrast and low contrast. If you have too many high contrast patterns in one area, the art tends to look off balance. The viewer's eye is going to focus on the one area where most of the contrast is. If you have too many low contrast patterns, the eye of the viewer is not going to flow very well through the piece. If you have a nice balance of both, the viewer's eye is going to flow nicely through the entire work of art. Okay, let's get started. We're going to draw a block letter and then add Zentangle patterns to it. I'm using the first letter of my first name, which is L. You can do the same, or you can use the first letter of your last name. It's your choice. To draw a block letter, you want to start out with a pencil, and you start out with just a basic line letter, like you would draw or write the letter normally. Now I have an L, so I need a lot of space down here at the bottom. So I'm obviously not going to start my L like right in the middle. I'll probably start it off to the side to leave room. So I'm going to do over here. Nice and big. Just a lined letter L. Then what you can do is draw around the outside edges of that line to create your block letter. Okay, now obviously that line, you don't need it anymore, so you can just get rid of it. Now from here, what you want to do is start creating different sections for your pattern. Start to break up the space with different kinds of lines, curving lines, straight lines, diagonal lines, zigzag lines. It's up to you what kind of lines you use, but you need to add some different spaces and sections inside the letter to create space for your Zentangle patterns. So there's going to be one line. I think I'll do another one going down this way. Curved line, diagonal, zigzag. Now I'm going to add some more lines inside here just to give me a little more space for my Zentangle. There we go, that looks good. All right, when you're done drawing with your pencil, outline everything with a Sharpie. Okay, once you have your letter traced with the Sharpie and all your individual Zentangle spaces traced with the Sharpie, then you can go right in with your Sharpie and start adding those patterns. But like I said, remember, you want to have an equal amount of both high contrast and low contrast. So here's mine right here. So as you can see, I have two up here at the top that are more low contrast, I would say, because there's a lot more empty space showing. There's not a lot of that darker color showing. And then right underneath it, I also have another one that's low contrast because again, you see a lot more empty white space. Now, how about this one? Low contrast or high contrast? What would you think? I think I'm going to say that's high contrast because the dark and lights are more in equal amounts, and I see a lot more of the dark, I'd say, than the light. Okay, then coming down here is low contrast. Down here is high contrast. So having that balance is really pulling my eye nicely through the piece. If I had only high contrast colors at the top, my eye would go right up to the top and stay there. So this way, it's kind of pulling my eye and drawing my eye downward. Now, because I have two high contrast patterns right beside each other, do you think it would be a good idea to put another one here, here, and here? Or do you think that would pull the eye down even further to the bottom? I'm going to say that's probably not the greatest idea. So what I'm going to do is add low contrast patterns in here to balance it out. Now you can look off of the sheet if you want to create your patterns, or if you want to use your imagination and create your own patterns, that would be great. It's totally up to you. You are the artist, so you get to decide what patterns you come up with or patterns that you use. So what I'm going to do is I'll look off of the paper first, and then probably for my last one, I'll come up with my own. All right, and there's my Zentangle letter all finished and ready to be put away or taken home. A couple things just to remind you. Remember, you want equal parts high contrast, equal parts low contrast, so that your eye flows very nicely through the piece. If you have too much high contrast, your eye is just going to go right to that spot and stay there. If you have too much low contrast, your eye is kind of gonna not really know where to look. But if you have it balanced and a little bit of low, a little bit of high, a little bit of low, a little bit of high, from the top down, your eye is going to flow very nicely through the piece. All right, I cannot wait to see your Zentangles when they are finished.